and there's not going to be enough wind to knock down homes or anything like that or cause structural damage. It's always about being without power for a while. And again, at night, it's not fun. So this is not like Irma that was coming up the spine of the state and kind of cutting over, and you're really in that massive weather. Storm is far enough away from you that while you'll know there's something going on, there's a hurricane passing by, all in all, it should be, I guess, okay is the word, but still, it's not going to be a fun night with some wind, some gusty winds and squalls. As far as rain goes, it is heaviest and the thunderstorms are building around the eye of the storm, and you can see some of the deeper convection. We'll be watching for some of these rain bands to bump on shore. The wind picking up now from the southeast and the south, and then St. Pete has some heavy rain, but really nothing quite yet in Tampa, and then nothing of note inland, and that's going to be pretty much the story. And when the storm passes our latitude, we know it's not going to hit us directly, and it'll be a slow process of improving later tomorrow and Thursday. Wind speed sustained 23 in St. Pete. Had a gust of 23 Fort Myers, not a big deal. Gust Sarasota at 30. Gust in Tampa at 20. I'm pretty confident that we do kind of a, what do we call it, like a post-storm analysis, which we do. We're not going to find anyone in our viewing area that'll report a sustained wind of hurricane force, but there may be some gusts certainly approaching that right along the immediate coast where there's no friction from the land is really where things are going to howl tonight. And that also includes around the bay. Then inland where there's more friction, there'll obviously be a lot less wind. Here's some tide times. High tide cycle is around 3 a.m. The high tide tomorrow afternoon in most spots is higher than it will be for the overnight cycle. So we'll be watching all of these tides. I think even tomorrow afternoon, there'll be some high water on our west coast. 4 to 7 foot surge, Tampa Bay, and then getting higher along and just to the right of where the storm makes landfall. Obviously concerned about Cedar Key, but obviously concerned about our northern counties. So all the areas along Citrus County and Pasco, along the coast, Hernando Beach, Homosassa, all the spots that are vulnerable to storm surge. Rainfall next 7 days, pretty significant in most spots. It'll add up total 5-7 inches, if not more. Next update at about 8:15. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Paul. 2 hours south, we just got this video in. People gathered on the pier in Naples. This is from the Earth Cam at the Naples Pier. Just recorded a few minutes ago. You can see a crowd gathered there watching the waves kick up. If anything, it looks a little busier than you might expect for a Tuesday evening at the beach. And we did see some surfers, too, out there trying to take advantage of the waves. Now, in Naples, they certainly know what it means to be the bullseye for a hurricane after what they went through with Irma back in 2017. They can certainly understand how folks in the Big Bend are feeling tonight.
Yeah, residents number in the hundreds, not thousands, but everyone living on the tiny island of Cedar Key in Levy County was ordered to pack up and get out ahead of Hurricane Idalia. And for the most part, they did. Many spent this morning doing what they could to secure property before evacuating.
This is my first one where I'm like really concerned. The other ones, I wasn't really concerned, but this one right towards us, so it makes it a little nervous, Just kind of stay hopeful. That's about it.
Commissioner Sue Colson joined other city officials in packing up documents and electronics at City Hall. More than a dozen state troopers went door to door, warning residents that storm surge could rise as high as 15 feet, a potentially deadly situation for any who choose to stay behind.
And this is a live picture now, a live look at Cedar Key from the Fire and Rescue Building. You can see that it is after sunset there now. It is getting dark, but not that cloudy yet. Of course, they're not seeing rain yet because the storm is still a ways off. Now, the last time they had significant flooding from a hurricane was during Hermine back in 2016. And remember, Hermine was just a Category 1 storm, but it hit Cedar Key with 8 feet of storm surge, damaging a lot of homes and buildings, including City Hall. And Commissioner Colson told us last night that because of what they went through with Hermine, they're more prepared for Idalia. So we'll keep an eye on conditions in Cedar Key there tonight. Certainly. Our thoughts with them. People in Sarasota and Manatee counties, they were among the first in our viewing area to really start to see some of the impacts from this hurricane.
Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon was crisscrossing the area today, monitoring the conditions as people began to feel the effects of the storm.
As we move into nightfall, officials in both Manatee and Sarasota counties will be paying close attention to storm surge, especially with those high tides that we're expected to see. This morning into the afternoon, residents were able to get their last-minute preparations in order. We saw a lot of people sandbagging still and working to protect their homes, especially right along the coast. Now, in Lombo Key earlier this afternoon, just after 1:30, we did see some localized flooding. Now, that was not from the storm. That was from the king tide. Now, that water did recede, but officials will be paying close attention to those neighborhoods. Now, the areas in the coastal communities are an evacuation A zone, and officials want to make sure that people get out of those areas just in case that surge comes on quickly.
The water's not so much fun today, and it could get a lot higher probably in the morning, probably around 1 or 2 this morning when the high tide comes in and the wind shifts. Then we'll have some issues probably.
I'm concerned about the storm surge, of course, but I was here last year journeying, and that was pretty wild, and so we're making plans with our neighbors, and we're all going to support each other and do what we need to do to get through it.
Some residents we spoke with on Lombo Key said that they are used to this sort of flooding, especially in the village of Lombo Key. Now, some did choose to stay behind, but they said that they will be evaluating what happens on an hour-by-hour basis. And officials in both counties have crews on standby for when it is safe to go in and evaluate what the conditions are and to see who needs help. In Manatee County, Kimberly Quizon, Fox 13 News.
Thank you, Kim. Now we make our way up the coast, turning now to Pinellas County, where obviously coastal flooding, that's a big concern for a lot of people as the hurricane pushes a lot of water toward the coast as it ramps up its strength. Fox 13's Kaylee Tracy has an update on conditions there.
We've seen a lot of surfers come out here to Sunset Beach over the past several hours, and over the past couple of hours, these waves have gotten bigger. We've seen a lot of people just out here walking along the beach as well, taking pictures. But Treasure Island officials stress that this is in Zone A, a mandatory evacuation zone, and they say you should have already been gone by 7 p.m. if you live here. They tweeted a little while ago, while we're happy you had a fun day surfing, surfboards won't protect you from storm surge. County officials say the most dangerous storm surge will hit after the winds have passed, with the biggest impacts along the Gulf from Tarpon Springs to Treasure Island. Pinellas County's emergency management director recommends avoiding going to the barrier islands until it's announced that the conditions are safe. About 338,000 people are under mandatory evacuations between Zone A and all of the mobile homes in Pinellas. Here in Sunset Beach, officials say staying is at your own risk, while surfers tell us they'll be out here at least a little longer.
I just came out to catch a few waves prior to the storm coming, finish picking up, and then I'll hunker down. I'm just trying to have fun, that's all.
Thousands of Duke Energy crews are also stationed at Tropicana Field, ready to help during and after the storm. 10 shelters are open across the county, and county officials say more than 1,500 people are in the shelters right now. That's up from 100 people this morning. Uber is also offering free rides to shelters up to $35 across Florida. The county is asking that you please conserve water to help the sewage and wastewater systems continue to operate during and after the storm. We have a list of shelter information across Pinellas County and other vital information for across the Tampa Bay area on our website right now, fox13news.com. And here in Pinellas, if you have any questions about the storm, the county has a 24/7 information center. That's a hotline you can call at 727-464-4333. In Sunset Beach, Kaylee Tracy, Fox 13 News.
Thanks, Kaylee. Hillsborough County may be a bit farther inland, but there's plenty of low-lying areas around Tampa Bay that are under evacuation orders. Zone A was told to get out ahead of Idalia. Fox 13's Gloria Gomez joins us from Davis Islands with an update.
Most residents here on Davis Island say they are staying put and not going anywhere. Few of them are evacuating the area, and that's not good news. That's not what emergency officials want to hear. In fact, they're reminding residents that if you stay here, you may not get emergency services when you call 911, especially during the height of the storm. In fact, we noticed several residents doing normal activities today, some enjoying a walk, others exercising on their bikes, many residents just enjoying the day. Most residents not really concerned about the storm that was coming this way. Few did have sandbags around their home, but most said they were just going to stay put. However, we did find one man who said he was heeding the warning, was taking his family to his brother's house just to be safe.
We've already done everything, all the prep work. That's why I'm on my bike now, just enjoying the slightly cooler weather. So.
And does it surprise you that a lot of your neighbors are kind of doing the same thing?
No, we've all been through this so many times that this seems like the least one to worry about. And hopefully that's not a concern, that we're not worried. But I don't think, it looks like this one's pretty predictable.
There wasn't much activity on the water either. We found a few tugboats heading towards the port of Tampa, but other than that, it was pretty quiet on the water. Also, a reminder from emergency officials that 2 fire stations in Zone A, which is a mandatory evacuation, will be closing down at 8 o'clock. So if you call 911 during the height of the storm, they won't be able to help you. In Tampa, Gloria Gomez, Fox 13 News.
And, you know, out and about, we talked to some people who were in Zone A. A lot of people did choose to stay behind. We heard from some people, though, saying, you know, if it gets bad enough, then I'll go. Obviously not the advice officials would give people, but, you know, let's talk about overnight, those wind gust conditions. What would people deal with?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this many times, is that regardless of the storm, there are going to people that are going to stay. I mean, you can plead, you can beg, you can show video. People are going to say, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. And then in some cases they are, and that kind of reinforces the fact. But at some point, you run into another Ian situation, and your luck kind of runs out. So we can't, you know, pick up people and put them on your back and move them out. They kind of have to do their own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they understand that at the height of the storm, if you do get in trouble, the emergency officials can't come help
at 3
you out.
a.m. and you're making a phone call, they're going to say, well, you're not supposed to be there.
Right. Then you got to write it out. We've been getting some great viewer questions through social media. We wanted to pass as many along to you as we could. We know you've got other things to do, but
it's okay.
And I wasn't even going to ask this one because it seems like more of a tomorrow question, but people keep asking me. They're seeing these models that show this storm possibly hooking back and coming. I know you're laughing already, but that's
I'm laughing about it because I said if you ever want to get good social media interaction, you post the model runs of a hurricane going by Tampa Bay, going out in the Atlantic, and then coming back and hitting you the second time.
Well, that's what I did. Yeah. That's what I'm good at.
That's how you get a lot of attention.
But people are curious about it now.
I think what's going to happen is when it gets out in the Atlantic, the steering winds are just going to completely collapse, and it could do a whole bunch of things. The storms have made big loops and have come back for a second time. Most of the models show that when it does that, it'll be not much left to it. But that's 10 days from now. So between now and then, I can guarantee the models will change.
Well, let's focus on the now. You got time for one more?
Sure.
I've got one from Polk County here. Let me get her name right. I'm sorry, I won't get your name, but she wants to know what conditions will be like in Polk County tonight.
We're always cognizant because people always say, you always forget about us in Polk County. So in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking it's important to mention the inland counties as much as it is the urban areas along the coast. And I think it's going to be, the word I've used today is manageable. It doesn't mean that at some point there'll be some heavy squalls going by, but in the whole world of Florida, hurricane history in Central Florida, this is probably going to be okay because the worst weather is going to bypass us. The rule continues to be, if you're in a hurricane event and you can avoid yourself getting from not being inside that eye wall or the core of the hurricane, most often than not, you're going to be okay. In this case, they will not be in the core of the hurricane. That's all that really matters. It doesn't mean you can't have wind gust of 40 to 50 or a tree knocks down or something. And then there it is on the screen, wind gust 40 plus. Maybe an isolated tornado, and 2 to 4 inches of rain. None of that sounds great, but when you're dealing with a Category 2 hurricane nearby, that's not a bad trade-off. Jim, pop up the infrared, because I think it's kind of cool what we'll be watching. I mean, cool, and I say this from a scientific point, not anything good. Now we're finally seeing the eye. See that kind of clear out? So that would indicate that finally, and remember, hurricanes are heat engines, and when they start running efficiently, rising air around the eye, sinking air in the eye. The storm last night, remember we talked about the northwesterly shear and everything looked kind of tilted. It just didn't look healthy. Now it's over very warm water and in an environment that is supporting the heat engine to perform better. And when it performs better, they intensify.
And tell us again, I know we've seen this a lot, but the bright red is
coldest cloud tops.
Coldest
It's
cloud
nighttime.
tops.
So this is not radar. This is the satellite taking the temperature of the clouds, and the redder, or I guess it's kind of like dark brown or black, those are the coldest cloud tops and the biggest thunderstorms, where it's the lighter colors are warmer temperatures, and now the eye is probably going to end up clearing out completely by 9, 10 o'clock.
All right. Paul, thank you for all that. We are taking viewer questions all
Sure.
night. You're the man with the answers, so everybody feel free to go on our Facebook page, Chris Cato, Haley Hines. We'll ask you the questions, and we've got a lot of good ones.
Sure.
A lot of curiosity, so we'll be asking them every few minutes. Maybe not every few minutes, every 10, 15 minutes. I know you're tired. You got to save your voice, but we appreciate it. We're listening.
We're here for the whole event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Well, you know, we've been seeing the impacts of Idalia already on Florida's west coast this evening, from flooding in Fort Myers to gusty winds, just kind of starting to reach our area now. But it is just the beginning of what Idalia is going to bring.
Well, it is expected to make landfall overnight in the Big Bend area. Points south of there, including the Tampa Bay area, will see storm surge, and that is why evacuation orders were issued for a lot of coastal residents. And hopefully by now, everyone that needs to has evacuated.
Now, Florida's Emergency Management Director, Kevin Guthrie, spoke on the importance of that just a moment ago. Take a listen.
It's crunch time. We're down to the wire. Hurricane Idalia will be making landfall tomorrow morning. Some parts of Florida are obviously already feeling those impacts. We're seeing a lot of videos and still pictures coming out of Southwest Florida, specifically in Fort Myers Beach and those areas that were impacted a year ago. Again, want to let those people know that we're going to be there as soon as we can get to you guys tomorrow morning. We will have some of our southern staged assets in there to help you guys and evaluate some of that damage. If you haven't evacuated, you're north of Fort Myers, you're up into the central Gulf Coast, northern Big Bend area. If you have not evacuated, you need to do that right now. You need to drop what you're doing. You need to go to your room, pack up, pack your things, and get to safety. If you need power, you need to get to safety. You need to evacuate right now. We are going to experience historical flood surge up into the Big Bend area. This is nothing to be messing around with. We were in the vehicle traveling with the governor when I got the phone call that there's going to be potentially 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Put that in perspective, that's 3 foot higher than what was predicted for Hurricane Ian in Fort Myers Beach. So please heed the warnings. If you're in that Big Bend area, your emergency managers are calling for an evacuation, please do it. I was on the phone again with Levy County, John McDonald. He is greatly concerned about Cedar Key. 12 to 13 feet of storm surge there. We've got to act, and we got to act now. We have launched our state assistance information line, or also referred to as cell line. That's number is 1-800-342-3557. Again, that's 1-800-342-3557. Residents can call the cell line and find out about how to prepare before, during, and after a hurricane, road closures, alternate routes, available open shelters, shelters designed for medically dependent individuals, and reentry information once it is safe to return. You can also, of course, get up-to-date information on our website at floridadisaster.org/updates. I know that we were with the CFO, and I would reiterate what he said earlier today. Take pictures. Take pictures of your home now. See what it looks like now before the storm is here, so that, again, when it happens, if you have damage, you then take pictures. You have before and after pictures. Taking pictures of the interior portion of your home as well, not just the exterior portion of your home. And then please do not be taken advantage of after the storm. Make sure that you don't do any cash transactions, you don't sign anything. If you've got any type of issues when it comes to insurance, you can always call the CFO's office at 1-877-MY-FL-CFO, and he will certainly help you out through all of that. So please heed warnings, do smart things. Please evacuate right now if you need to do so. And again, Governor, as always, thank you for your leadership on this.
Thanks, General.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership and for your support of your Florida National Guard. Director Guthrie, thank you for your tremendous work and of your team, the great work you're doing to ready our state and to protect Florida citizens. The Florida National Guard is fully mobilized with over 5,500 soldiers and airmen deployed or deploying. We are ready to provide humanitarian assistance, search and rescue, route clearance, and security missions throughout the area of operations in partnership with our state and local agencies. Over the past 48 hours, the Florida National Guard has been positioning personnel and units in strategic locations near expected landfall areas to assist impacted counties as rapidly as possible. The Florida National Guard's response efforts are organized around 4 task forces. Task Force 53, our main effort, is operating in the western coastal counties with 1,600 guardsmen. Task Force 164 is prepared to support counties in the central and northeast Florida with over 1,200 guardsmen. Task Force 83 is prepared to provide aviation support for search and rescue operations and commodity distribution. And Task Force 50 is prepared to provide transportation, sustainment, and communication support with over 1,100 guardsmen as needed. In addition, we have guardsmen currently manning state logistic response centers and other warehouses with over 200 guardsmen throughout the state.
You were hearing there from the Major General of the Florida National Guard. We also heard from the state's Emergency Management Director, Kevin Guthrie. One other item that we will add that we've heard him and other officials urge people throughout the day is after this storm passes, if you lose power and you have a generator, be certain not to use that generator in an enclosed space. Almost after every hurricane, we unfortunately have at least one death of carbon monoxide poisoning because someone has used a generator in a garage or someplace that is enclosed. So that's one word of warning that officials have been putting out in the aftermath of this storm as we wait for it to make landfall.
In Pasco County, there is a mandatory evacuation order for people living in Zone A and for mobile homes countywide. All day they've been pushing people who need to get out. That is because there are so many low-lying and flood-prone areas in Pasco County. Take a look at some of the people who are helping direct the emergency response here in Pasco County. One thing they are worried about is people not evacuating from Zone A near the coast and mobile homes and those flood-prone low-lying areas where they say there is a potentially dangerous flood risk.
We're still expected to get 6 to 9 foot of surge. We'll be getting the strong tropical storm force winds, some hurricane winds. So we still got to take this storm very seriously.
And a lot of people are putting sandbags around their homes in Pasco County. About 300 to 350,000 sandbags have been given out in Pasco alone. If you need any specific information about shelters, road closures, and much more in Pasco County, you can find those details on mypasco.net. We have links on our website as well, fox13news.com.
And just a quick reminder, most schools in the Bay Area were closed today, but come tomorrow, every school district will be closed in our viewing area. They are listed on the screen there for you. Also, Polk and Sumter counties will be closed on Thursday as well. That's because many of the schools are being used as shelters. And in case of hurricane damage, other health facilities and hospitals are taking precaution too. Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital is closing all of its outpatient care centers beginning tomorrow. They've also stopped non-emergency surgeries, but the hospital's main campus in St. Pete will remain open for pediatric emergencies throughout the storm. The hospital expects to resume normal operations at all locations on Thursday.
Earlier today, Advent Health North Pinellas Hospital in Tarpon Springs evacuated patients to other hospitals in the area. Hospital officials say they made the decision to evacuate out of an abundance of caution and because of the hospital's proximity to the Gulf of Mexico.
We evacuated for Hurricane Ian for the same reason, out of the abundance of caution and to make sure we could have both our patients and our team in a safe environment during the hurricane. So really a great job by the team to move these patients and make sure they're safe.
The emergency room at Advent Health North Pinellas Hospital is now closed, but the Advent Health ER in Palm Harbor will remain open indefinitely. However, their facilities are not equipped or designed to act as a hurricane shelter. Meanwhile, Bayfront Health St. Petersburg is no longer allowing visitors this evening to assure public safety. The facility stopped all visitation at 5 today with Hurricane Idalia approaching our coast. Bayfront's physician offices and clinics also closed at noon. And a quick reminder, if you lose power tonight and want to get updates from us, our news will be aired over several local radio stations. That includes these three: Hot 101.5, 102.5 The Bone, and 97X. We are tracking Hurricane Idalia all night. Stay with us.
This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will resume in just a moment. This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will resume in just a moment. This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment.
Welcome back. We continue tracking Hurricane Idalia tonight as the storm churns up Florida's west coast.
Jim Weber and now. And Jim, one good thing about this storm, unlike some we've seen, like Ian, this one is moving pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, you get these fast-moving storms, you get these slow-moving storms, and the good thing about a fast-moving storm is they're not turning if they're moving that fast. You know, it gives it less time to strengthen, although it's moving over extremely warm waters, so we are going to see this strengthen quite a bit, I think, as we go through the overnight hours. We continue to watch that pressure fall. The satellite representation of this really starting to look impressive just from that scientific standpoint. Since we've now switched over from the visible to an IR, an infrared, we're looking at the temperature of the clouds. That's how we sense it through the IR channel or through the overnights. And so what you're looking at here, those are some of the coldest cloud tops when you get into those darker colors. And then right in the center, it's clearing out the clouds. And so that's why you see that donut right in the middle. The other thing is you start to see some of these other areas here where we're starting to see some of these bands developing right near the coastline, some very intense convection with that. And that's what we're going to be watching here. I think as we go through the next couple of hours, some of these bands, they're going to start to work their way along the coastline, and inside of those bands, that's where you get those really heavy rains and you get the very strong winds as well. Now, we're going to keep the hurricane force winds off the coastline, but inside of these bands, you will see some of these winds gusting to tropical storm force easily. And as the more and more of these bands work their way through, you're going to see these winds gusting 40, 50 miles an hour. But right now, radar, you can really clearly see that eye of this storm as it is getting well within radar range. You're also seeing some of those stronger storms wrapping around the center. Those are the things that you look for an intensifying system. You're looking for it to really build that core of thunderstorms right around the center. We're seeing a lot of lightning in this. Very interesting because tropical systems, typically, they don't have a whole lot of lightning. So when you're seeing a lot of lightning, that shows you it's an intensifying storm, and it's a strong storm. And so we've really seen a lot of lightning, not only in the bands, but right around the center. Every time we see that burst of convection, we see a lot of lightning developing right near the center as well. So we're watching it go through another one of those bursts of convection of hurricane reconnaissance planes. They've been flying in this system pretty much nonstop. And what they're finding is that pressure is starting to fall faster and faster. So that's that first indication that it is strengthening. And then as that pressure falls, the winds, they start to pick up. So right now, there's that heavy rain right along the coastline. So if you're down into, say, Bradenton, Sarasota, down towards Osprey, down towards Venice, all the way down towards Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, this heavy band, that is going to be working its way on shore. You see what happens. They just kind of spiral on shore, and inside that, that's where you get the very strong winds, those winds gusting easily up to tropical storm force, I think, in some of these. And then those will work their way into Pinellas County, up into Hillsborough County as we go through the next couple of hours, and we will continue to see just more of these developing down to our south. As the storm works its way to the north, we'll start to see more of those working their way over us, I think, through the overnight hours and into tomorrow. But then we've had some strong storms. A lot of these have been working their way over on the eastern side of the state. So even on that eastern side of the state, they've been dealing with some pretty strong storms and some pretty gusty winds over towards Orange County in and around Orlando. Quite a bit of power outages with those storms working their way through. So this is the 8 o'clock advisory. Winds have now increased to 105 miles an hour. This is a Category 2 hurricane. It's moving to the north at 16 miles an hour. It's not due north. It's moving about 10 degrees off of that, so just ever so slightly to the east of north. And it will continue to work its way on that track right up into the Big Bend area, making landfall as we go into tomorrow morning, intensifying the whole way, makes its way on shore weekends, but still working its way over the Carolinas and eventually out over the water once again. So you look at some of these wind speeds right now, down towards Sarasota, 17, but you're seeing those winds gusting to 30 miles an hour. But as that band works its way on shore, get set. Those winds are really going to start to pick up as that band works its way through. As far as the tides and that surge along the coastline, what we are going to see as we go through tonight, through the overnight hours, we've got a tornado watch just issued. So we'll be talking about that. Paul just walking in, informing us we've got a tornado watch, but that's, again, not unexpected that we would see this when you have these systems working their way along the coastline. We would expect to see some of these spin-up tornadoes, and so they're going to issue that tornado watch. So we're going to be watching for that, again, especially as that line works its way along the coastline here over the next half an hour or so. That's when we're really going to start to see at least a threat of that. So we'll be watching more of this. We'll have more radar updates coming up in just a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Well, Hurricane Idalia continues, as Jim just showed us there, to be a Category 2 storm as it marches north toward the Big Bend region. And as we've been saying, the big concern along the coast is that storm surge. Fox's Madison Scarpino has an update now from St. Petersburg.
And Madison, tell us, what are you seeing out there this hour?
Hey, Chris and Haley. Well, the winds are slowly picking up a lot here. And then the rainfall on and off. But of course, really in the next hour or so, we're going to start to see that intensify a lot. And there's still people walking on the streets here in downtown St. Pete, at least, and cars on the road still. Hopefully that changes as the conditions are expected to get very dangerous. And according to the National Weather Service, over 5 million people are under hurricane warning, so some really scary stuff here in this a lot of the state of Florida. And of course, those storm surges that you guys have been talking about, that perhaps being the biggest concern. 12 to 15 feet possible in some of the Big Bend region. And another thing that's not working in the state's favor are the ocean temps. Hurricanes thrive on warm water, and the Gulf of Mexico's water has been hotter than normal for weeks now, acting as fuel for Idalia. Currently, 49 counties under state of emergency. Governor DeSantis deploying thousands of National Guard members to help with the storm relief efforts. And people here that we spoke to in downtown St. Pete says this is always a stressful time of the year, particularly one man said, especially if you have boats. But some think that a lot of people don't take these warnings serious enough.
We think we're golden. Eventually, maybe not. And this, on the beach, certainly on the west side of St. Pete, this will have an effect. It'll have an effect, St. Pete, Clearwater, all the way up. There will be property damage. There will be flooding. There, hopefully, no loss of life.
Now, at least for this particular area, it's evacuation zone E. And I got to say, all the hotels around here filled to the brim, completely sold out. We've been seeing people all day coming in with loads of bags and boxes, and of course, a lot of pets with them. So definitely making the right decision there. And again, they're all just kind of anxiously awaiting to see what happens and if this area will be spared from some serious damage. But we're of course going to be out here all night long and in the coming days, keeping you guys updated all along the way. Back to you.
Madison Scarpino reporting tonight in St. Petersburg. Madison, thank you.
And we continue our county-by-county coverage now with a look at how they're getting ready up in Hernando County, where they could see some significant coastal flooding. Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer has an update from Spring Hill.
Folks around here are really on edge about the type of damage the storm surge could potentially do. They're worried about flooding coming in from the Gulf, flooding coming in from these freshwater creeks and canals. We're told that it could be devastating for some of the surrounding communities. And that is also why the National Guard is here ready to help. We were here as 6 high-water rescue vehicles pulled up to Linda Peterson Park in the Spring Hill area. 17 members of the National Guard were briefed by Hernando County Fire Rescue Chief Marcus Zoff and Commissioner Brian Hawkins. These crews will be helping out specifically in 3 communities, Hernando Beach, Pine Island, and Arapica. We're told another 79 members of the National Guard are on their way to assist if needed. Chief Zoff explained why he feels fortunate to have this type of help.
Our hands are tied. They have the possibility of going out and doing something, but there again, people need to heed the warning. Get out, now's the time.
Following the briefing, the National Guard members went out into the communities to try to get a lay of the land, to figure out which roads they can navigate, which ones they can't, in case they have to make some rescues after the storm. In Hernando County, Aaron Mesmer, Fox 13 News.
Turning now to Citrus County, the closest county in our viewing area to where we expect Idalia to make landfall.
Fox 13's Evan Axelbank has been there all day. He joins us once again from Homosassa, famous for its manatees, popular for Weeki Wachee Springs up in that area too. Evan, good to see you again. About an hour ago when we talked to you, it looked really calm. Looks kind of calm still.
Yeah, those things you mentioned, you could probably still enjoy those things if you came up here right now. Conditions have not started to deteriorate here in Homosassa. That is good news for people here. They are, of course, waiting with bated breath to see what is in store for them. This is an area that floods very easily and very frequently when we have large storms of any kind come through Tampa Bay, even things that are not a tropical storm. They certainly do cause a lot of flooding here in Homosassa. We cover them all the time. The good news is, just as an example here, we're outside this gas station, and we've seen it fully operational. There are supplies inside, and people have been coming in all night to get gas. We've seen them fill up, restock the gas station with fuel supplies here, so that's good news. And without a doubt, this is just a situation where people are waiting to see what is going on, what is going to happen here. Amazingly, right now, it looks like there are almost no clouds up in the sky here in Homosassa, so we'll see when things start to deteriorate around here, likely after midnight. We've seen people coming to this gas station here all evening long. Plenty of supplies are inside. Things also have been very quiet down by the Homosassa boat ramp. Thankfully, the water has not risen much, and there have only been little spurts of rain coming through. We did see one resident being evacuated by friends and family. and they're filling up with gas and securing stuff on their patios.
It happens here even when it's not bad. So if it gets bad, we're going to be underwater. But as long as we have what it takes in the house and we can still live, we're good.
Citrus County Emergency Management has said that they are fully prepared for anything that comes their way. They're prepared for 60 to 80 mile an hour winds. They're also prepared, they say, for 8 to 12 feet of storm surge. Nobody wants to see that. Anyone in Zone A should already have been evacuated. Shelters are a last resort, but they do say they're open in case somebody needs them. So, you know, the question right now is just what is going to happen after midnight here. This is a situation where the quiet that is around me right now should not fool you, given what is headed up the west coast of Florida. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, it's a waiting game, and the winds and the water, they aren't there yet to Citrus County. Evan Axelbank live for us. Thanks, Evan. And stay with us right here on Fox 13 for continuing coverage of Hurricane Idalia. As we look at a live radar image there, you can see those outer bands starting to reach the Tampa Bay area. Up next, we're going to answer some more of your viewer questions. You guys have some good ones for us on social media. We'll get those to Paul and the experts. Paul and Jim are here all night to keep you informed. So are we. We'll be right back.
This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will resume in just a moment. This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will resume in just a moment. This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay. Special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment.
Continuing coverage, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell is also warning Floridians to take this hurricane seriously. Criswell says nearly $3.5 billion remain in FEMA's disaster relief fund. And that's being tapped for immediate needs after the storm barrels through Florida. And Criswell, is calling on Congress to approve more funding.
The supplemental request that we have put in is $12 billion, and that will be a bridge to get us through the end of the fiscal year. If we continue to see more storms, we're going to continuously monitor very closely the health of the Disaster Relief Fund to determine what more may be needed. But right now, as the situation stands, the supplemental request will get us through the end of this fiscal year.
And she says FEMA has positioned crews in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina to respond to any claims and needs after the storm.
It almost looks peaceful from this altitude. The crew of the International Space Station captured a view of Idalia from high above the Earth's atmosphere today. Look at that. The storm has strengthened a bit since then, and now we wait for landfall. And Paul, in addition to some of the preparations, the non-common tornado watch is in for parts of the
kind of
area.
expected it.
Yeah.
It's very rare not having a hurricane out in the Gulf and being on the right side is where you get most of the instability. So let's pop it up on the screen. It does cover the entire viewing area. We do have a tornado watch in red. You see it kind of flash in. It's up until 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. And as those bands come on shore, and stronger winds are aloft, they kind of make some of those thunderstorms rotate. So that band, which by the way is pretty significant now coming up the coast, we'll be watching that. That's the type of band that could produce a tornado. But anyone watching us along the coast in our southern counties right now getting hit hard with one of those bands. Look how well defined. Look how things have changed. When you look at the eye, I mean, what's the phrase? Things have escalated quickly.
Yes.
Yes. When you look at that, that looks the more typical radar presentation with a major hurricane or almost a major hurricane.
And it really is those angry outer bands there. That's where we've seen during Ian. I know we had it, Irma too, but many others. Often tornadoes do pop up as those start to
They move really fast
there.
too,
Yeah.
because they're stuck in the circulation around the hurricane. So when they do occur, they can move 40, 50 miles an hour. Some of these tornadoes when they do occur, and by the time we talk about them on TV, they move so fast that they're usually gone at that point.
And you say this will extend through the night. Now, people may be trying to sleep through the night. It may not be easy, but is there something, with a watch, it might not be easy to get sleep, but is there any advice you would give people to try to keep themselves safe?
You need to have an alert, and our Sky Tower app will alert you. With this, the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch means we think it could happen, and a warning means it is happening. Okay. And that when you have whether it's a weather radio or the Sky Tower app, just some method that if you're in bed at night at 4 o'clock in the morning and there's a tornado warning at your location, that you're going to be woken up. That's really the most important thing.
That's a good point. We were getting viewer questions. Obviously, people are aware of, they want to be on top of this, and they appreciate everything you and Jim have been giving to them. But one from Julie St. Peter here is, you guys have talked about storm surge a lot. She wants to know really what that means for people that don't live right along the coast. Is there a scenario where it's, if you live along a river, could really bad storm surge affect flooding in rivers?
You could have. When we think about when the bay floods, the water's pushed up the bay. I'm talking about Hillsborough Bay and Tampa Bay. The water gets pushed, and the water goes up the river, up the Hillsborough River. So you can flood up a river, and you can also obviously flood downtown Tampa because the water gets stuck at the top of the bay. So the water levels do come up in the river. And when you talk about storm surge, when you're not immediately on the coastline, in other words, you don't have the beach as your backyard, the water extends inland beyond beachfront homes, and it can extend inland for miles depending on the topography, depending on the geography. So if you've got obviously elevation, you go up 20, 30 feet, the water's not going to make it that far. But if it's flat and you live a mile inland, I mean, these zones, that's why they have zones. When you're in a higher risk zone, it's because you live on the water, and when you're in a lower risk zone, you live away from the water, and usually it's some elevation.
Didn't we see it go a mile inland with Ian around Fort Myers?
I always tell when the reporters call me as they're out covering storms, we always talk about storm surge. And the first thing I always tell them, remember, the water will end up going places that you think the water is never going to get. And I've seen that happen so many times. And I remember covering Hugo in South Carolina. Back then, we used to have the big satellite trucks. Back in the day, now everything's done through internet and Wi-Fi. But back then, you'd have this big $1 million satellite truck, and my news director said, be careful with that truck and where you put it. And so we went down to Myrtle Beach. This is when I worked in Winston-Salem, and we parked it, and then, we're fine here. And then by midnight, we said, let's move the truck. So we moved it, and then we moved it again. And then before you know it, we ended up moving the truck about a mile away from its original parking spot. And the original parking spot was like, there's no way this is going to flood. Wow. So it goes to show you the water goes places you never think it will.
You didn't want that truck coming out of your paycheck.
No, you told me before I left.
I did get a question from Matthew. He lives in the southeast Winter Haven, Lake Wales area. You mentioned Ian. He unfortunately was impacted by that. He still has a tarp on his home from Ian. He's praying that does not come off tonight, but he was asking about the wind out there. Is that any kind of danger that he could lose that?
Well, I mean, his biggest concern, because he's so far inland, is for one of those rotating squalls that go by. And we see what's a squall. Squall's like when It's raining lightly. All of a sudden, for about 2 or 3 minutes, you look and you can't see a thing. And the wind blows 30, 40 miles an hour, and then it goes away. And before it's like, where'd the rain go? That's a squall. So if one of those goes by, that's the type of situation. They're not going to get sustained winds of 40, 50 miles an hour, I think, inland. But those squalls can do that briefly.
Okay.
Want another one?
Just keep on going.
Okay.
We can go to midnight if you want.
Yeah, he's got all the answers.
We're playing all the hits here. Shirley wants to know, what's the probability of this reaching Cat 4?
I think it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now we're looking at intensification, and there's enough water between where it is now and the landfall point up in the Big Bend where how many times have we seen storms intensify? We go, whoa, this is incredible. This was a Cat 2 a little while ago. Now it's a Cat 3 and 4. So it's not impossible. I'd say it's I'd say 40% chance.
Yeah. And I'd say for a lot of people, it probably doesn't matter whether it's a high Cat 3 or low Cat 4. It's going to be for the Big Bend.
We've said, the headline of Hurricanes Forever is, what's the category? What's the wind speed? But at the end of the day, I think what matters in this case is how high is the water going to get on the coast.
And is that about as high as they will issue? 10 to 15 feet? Does it?
Yeah, we can go higher.
Get it?
I mean,
well,
don't forget,
if it doesn't.
15 to the one in Katrina was 20, 25 feet in spots.
That's incredible. Yeah. That is hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. And of course, keep asking us questions on Chris's page, on my page, and we'll be getting the answers from Paul.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. This afternoon, Hernando County gave everyone an update on how residents there can really prepare for this storm.
They are also warning about the impacts residents can expect as the storm closes in. Let's listen in.
We're still looking at 6 to 9 feet of storm surge on the west coast of Hernando County. We have emergency protective measures in place. Shelters are open. We have a lot of people taking advantage of those shelters, which is a good thing. But I can't stress enough, this is going to be catastrophic storm surge, life-threatening storm surge. So I would like to turn it over to Department of Health Director Danielle Taylor to talk about some emergency protective measures for Health and Human Services. Danielle?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Danielle Taylor, DANIELLE-TAYLOR. I am the health officer for Florida Department of Health in Hernando County. I wanted to go over some public health messaging for everyone. We would like for everyone to prepare your emergency water supply. Store at least 1 gallon of water per day for each person and pet for cooking and drinking. Store at least 3 days. If you're using store-bought water, that's wonderful. If you have containers that you're using, make sure that they are sanitized appropriately before you fill them with water. Some environmental health topics that we'd like to cover. Set your freezer at 0 degrees or below. Set your refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Freeze some containers of water for ice to help keep your food cold. Keep your refrigerator and freezer doors closed as much as possible to maintain that cold temperature. Keep food safely cold for 4 hours at least. Try not to open your freezers or your refrigerators. When in doubt, throw it out. Some carbon monoxide poisoning topics. Carbon monoxide is odorless, colorless, and it can cause sudden illness and death if inhaled. Never use a generator, pressure washer, or any gasoline-powered engine inside your home, basement, or garage, or less than 20 feet from any window, or door, or vent. Never use a charcoal grill, hibachi, lantern, or portable camping stove inside a home, tent, or camper. Some floodwater safety. Do not play in it. Do not drive through it. We don't know what's in the water. We don't know if it is a hard, sharp material that could cause an injury. It could have some bacteria. Floodwater and standing water can be dangerous. Hand washing. Hand washing, hand washing, hand washing. Wash your hands, soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Scrub with soap and water. Medication. Have enough of your prescriptions on hand to get us through at least the next week. Understand that there's a state of emergency and you are permitted a 30-day emergency prescription from your pharmacy. If you haven't gotten that by now, please keep that in mind for future storms. Special needs sheltering. The time to shelter is now. Pre-register if you can at specialneeds.hernandocounty.us. If you have not been able to do that, when you come to the shelter, we can register you there. So who needs to come to the shelter? People that need refrigerated services for their medication, if you need electricity for life support medical equipment, for basic nursing supervision, and for anybody that is on oxygen, we encourage you to come to the shelter. A few more things about special needs sheltering. The shelter provides a safe space for rest and sleep, as well as meals. We're located at West Hernando Middle School, 14325 Ken Austin Parkway in Brooksville. If you need transportation, please call 352-754-4083. And while your specific needs may vary depending on your medical condition, be sure to bring a week's supply of your regular medications and medical supplies in their original containers with clearly labeled instructions.
We have a full list of shelters and evacuation zones on our website, fox13news.com.
We have so much information there for you, and we also have it scrolling across the bottom of your screen throughout our newscast. As you can see, we remain on air here for as long as possible. You can count on Fox 13 to keep you updated on all of the developments as Idalia makes its way closer to landfall. And we know that a lot of you may lose power during this storm and may not quickly have it restored. So you want to stay informed. You have the ability to watch our live stream on your smartphones or tablets, and you can do so at fox13news.com/live, L-I-V-E. But if you do need those devices for a lifeline and you're trying to conserve batteries, obviously that's a priority. And so take care of that first. Charge when you can. Remember, you can find us on the radio too. We have broadcasting partners, 3 radio stations for wall-to-wall coverage of this hurricane. That's 101.5, 97X, and you'll get occasional updates too on 102.5 The Bone. Remember, we have a lot of resources for you to help you get information throughout this storm on fox13news.com. Go there and you will easily find it on the main page. And again, you're watching our continuing coverage. We'll be right back after this.
This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay, special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13 Tampa Bay, special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will resume in just a moment. This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay, special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment. You're watching Fox 13 Tampa Bay, special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will resume in just a moment. This is Fox 13 Tampa Bay, special coverage of Hurricane Idalia. Please stand by. Our live coverage will continue in just a moment.
Welcome back to our coverage of Hurricane Idalia. I'm Haley Hines.
And I'm Chris Cato. Let's get over now to meteorologist Jim Weber. Jim, I know we don't get another advisory from the National Hurricane Center until 11, but we do have some things to talk about.
Yeah, we're watching some of these bands starting to work their way along the coastline, and this is where we have to really start to focus in on what these bands are doing, because any one of these can really spin up that quick tornado. We do have that tornado watch that has now been issued essentially for our entire viewing area. That goes until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Makes sense. Anytime you have these tropical systems, you have those bands, they always have that ability to spin up that tornado, and they move very quickly as well. So quite often when you see these, they're not that strong, but sometimes they're moving 40, 50 miles an hour. So by the time you get that tornado warning, they have moved a really far distance very quickly. So here's the view on Sky Tower radar. You can clearly see the eye. Now you're seeing that band. We've been talking about this for a couple of hours. We've had this nice quiet lull here for several hours. Now we're going to start to watch some of these bands working their way along the coastline. Inside of these, that's where you have that torrential rain. You also have some of those strong wind gusts, where we're going to start to see some of these winds gusting up to tropical storm force in these bands as they work their way onshore. But right now, from, say, Manatee County down towards Bradenton, up towards Anna Maria, and then stretching down through Sarasota, Osprey, down towards Venice, all the way down towards Punta Gorda. You can see it is sitting just off the coastline. You're already starting to see some of that moderate, in some cases, some heavy rain. But as you get into some of these oranges and reds, that is that torrential rain where you're going to see some of the strongest winds as well. And it's really not going to take too long for that to brush up along the coastline. And then you see the motion with these is they just kind of spiral around the center. We're going to start to see some of this working its way through Pinellas County. You're going to start to see some of this up into Hillsborough County as well. This extends south of Sarasota, so you're going to see for a time, depending on how this band sets up, it could be an extended period of some pretty strong winds and just getting hammered by this band. That's also where some of that rain, the amounts can really pile up pretty quickly as well. Extends all the way down to just off the coast of Fort Myers. Other than that, you see to our north, it's quiet right now. Had some storms earlier. Those were actually spinning over Orlando and the eastern side of the state. The enhanced satellite loop, now that the sun has gone down, we switch from the visible to a infrared, where we're actually looking at the temperature of the clouds. So when you see these darker colors, that is indicative of colder cloud tops. The higher they go in the atmosphere, the colder they get, and that's also stronger. So that's where you're seeing some really strong storms wrapping around that eastern side of the storm. And then you can see the center where it's clearing out. You get the warm air right in the center of it, and that's why you see that donut look right in the middle of the storm. So here's the new 8 o'clock advisory issued an hour ago, 26.9, 84.7. Top winds have increased now to 105 miles an hour. Additional strengthening is expected with this, and it makes sense because we continue to see that pressure falling, currently sitting at 965 millibars. So as that pressure drops, the wind goes up in the system. It's moving to the north at 16 miles an hour, just ever so slightly to the east of north. So that forecast track has been really pretty spot on with this. There will be those little minor tweaks here and there, but basically we're talking about it heading up into the Big Bend area and then working its way up into Georgia and eventually up into the Carolinas as well. Winds are starting to come up down in the Sarasota. You're seeing those winds gusting right now to 32 miles an hour, but as that band continues to spread on shore, we are quite likely going to start to see those winds at least gusting to tropical storm force, if not sustained tropical storm force winds in that. Now, as far as the tides, that's going to be an issue, not as much tonight. Certainly we will have some issues with that down to our south because the center is now working its way a bit further to the north. But as we go into tomorrow and the center of this is to the north of us, that wind will be coming from that south and southwesterly direction. So you see those tides on the screen, and that is when we're going to see some of that strong surge as well, where you see up into the Big Bend, 10 to 15 feet. So that is certainly life-threatening storm surge up in that area. And that even extends down into portions of Citrus County and then down into Hernando and Pasco County along the coastline. Storm surge 6 to 9 feet. And then along Pinellas County and then up into Tampa Bay. Possibility of up to 4 to 7 feet and lesser amounts as you head down to the south. Some needed rain. We certainly don't need the wind. We don't need all the severe weather, but we've been in a pretty severe drought here on the West Coast. And so that'll be the one positive you can take out of this, is it will give us some of that rain that we desperately need. We just didn't want to get it this way. So we're going to continue to watch this, and we will keep you updated on this, obviously, throughout the overnight hours.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And as Jim pointed out with the storm surge map there, high wind and catastrophic storm surge are the two big threats for the Big Bend area of Florida. That's where Hurricane Idalia is taking aim right now for landfall. The small town of Cedar Key on an island in Levy County ordered its hundreds of residents to evacuate, all of them. About 900 people live there, with the storm surge forecast to be high enough to flood the first floors of homes and businesses.
I tell them to leave. Everyone. I'm firm on that. That's what the county said, that's what the state said, and that's what my director said. Leave. So I am not to deviate from that. Because we want you to be alive.
And as we were there, we saw dozens of state troopers going door to door to make sure that everyone knows that the evacuation orders are in place for Cedar Key. But we did hear from a few people earlier who said they're going to ride out the storm on the second floor of a motel.
We continue our county-by-county coverage this hour in Pinellas County as Idalia turns up Florida's west coast. We'll be watching the water levels. Fox 13's Justin Matthews joins us live tonight from Clearwater Beach. Justin, we know it's getting dark out, but tell us what you're seeing out there at this hour.
Well, Haley, I know Jim Weber was just telling us about those outer bands making their way into our region. It's definitely indicative of that out here in Clearwater Beach. We just saw a huge flash of lightning. We're hearing some rumbles of thunder. It's a little windy. The rain is starting to pick up. And I know it is dark, but behind me is the ocean, and you can kind of see the white caps. I don't know if you can see it because it is so dark, but, you know, the waves are really starting to pick up. We're hearing the crash of the water, and, yeah, definitely indicative of the weather starting to deteriorate. But take a look at Clearwater Beach earlier, just I don't know, a little before dinner time, I should say, when we were out here, and people were on the beach with their families, checking out the conditions, admiring the waves, you know, something you don't really see here in the Gulf too often. And of course, there were plenty of surfers taking advantage of that as well before the sun went down.
There's a really narrow window you have, and that's why you see so many people out here right now, because the forecasts do a good job of telling you when it's a good idea and when it's not, if you know what you're looking for. So the surfing period, from what I saw online, is going to be from about now, if we're lucky, until dark, and then don't be anywhere near the water.
Yeah, and driving around Clearwater Beach and Pier 60 really feels like a ghost town, where we are in a mandatory evacuation zone. Shops and restaurants are all closed. Sandbags line the entrances of all the businesses. And it's much quieter out here at Clearwater Beach than it was even an hour ago. It really cleared out. There's not much traffic. There's not many people out at all, which is good because we are in that mandatory evacuation zone. And there is a hotline. If you do have any questions about the storm and you are in Pinellas County, there's that hotline that's available for you 24/7. We have our number up on our screen. It's 727-464-4333. Any questions you have in Pinellas County, definitely call that hotline. Haley?
And that is good to hear that people are heeding the warning, clearing the streets, trying to stay off the roads. We saw a lot of people out there earlier in the day with those waves, kind of curious what the conditions were like. But certainly now is not the time to be out there checking it out. We're doing our best to keep people informed so they can stay inside. But we appreciate the update out there, Justin. Stay safe. By now, the time has passed to leave your home and find shelter. Officials in Manatee County held a briefing earlier this evening to discuss evacuating, staying informed, and the safety measures that have been put in place. Take a listen.
We have put in place today our 7 first-in teams strategically placed throughout the county. What these teams are is Public Works, Fire, EMS, law enforcement, to open up the roadways if we have downed trees, Florida Power and Light, Preco Power is with them, so they're in place. Earlier today, Public Safety and our transportation team helped evacuate 116 patients from a downtown assisted living facility to one of our county general population shelters. Please don't wait until the last minute. Now is the time to evacuate. As Director Fisk said, evacuate tens of miles, not hundreds of miles, but now is the time to do this. We do not know yet exactly when or what the storm's going to do. We know we're going to get surge. We know we're going to get rain. We're worried about flooding. The thing with the flooding is the majority of that surge and flood comes after the eye of the storm has gone by. So there'll be a delay of those flooded roads, as it's been mentioned by the chair and the director. If you cannot see the roadway, do not drive through the roadway. We've already been in communication with all the cities, the island communities, about the roads being flooded, what our actions will be. If a road is flooded, it's closed.
That was the Deputy Director of Public Safety for Manatee County. And a reminder for all Manatee County residents tonight, if you haven't already done so, they are urging residents to sign up for their alerts to be informed with any and all safety notices during and after Hurricane Idalia.
And turning now to Hillsborough County, South Tampa in particular, you know, we've seen Bayshore Boulevard flood when a tropical storm rolls through town. So there's a lot of concern about what we will see there with this hurricane pushing water into the bay. And let's go now live out to Bayshore Boulevard. Fox 13's Jennifer Veglas joining us now. So Jennifer, what does it look like out there now?
I'm standing right in front of the Davis Islands bridges, and just in the last 15 minutes, we felt wind speeds pick up just a bit, and it's only drizzling, and we're still seeing people out here on Bayshore Boulevard getting one last little stroll in. But earlier today, there were much more people taking their dogs for a walk, going biking, and enjoying the breezy conditions before the rain picked up. Now, one man who lives on Harbor Island says he took the precautions needed ahead of Idalia making landfall.
We are in a condominium, so we are higher up, but we prepared, like I said, to stay in. But yeah, it's a concern. Always be prepared and stay informed.
Now, just 1 hour ago, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue closed their stations in Evacuation Zone A. So that's stations like 15 and 31 in the town and country area. Those units have been relocated to surrounding areas. But this is your reminder that if you do need emergency help during the height of the storm, first responders might not be able to respond.
That's a great point there. Jennifer Veglas, by the way, this is always awkward when you meet a new coworker for the first time in a dual box during hurricane coverage, but that's where we find ourselves here. Welcome. Welcome to Fox 13 in Tampa Bay. Great to have you here. And, you know, you come with a lot of experience in covering storms, too. Fortunately or unfortunately, you were from Fort Myers, right?
Yes, I was there covering Hurricane Ian, and I was in Sarasota during Hurricane Irma, so I'm definitely no stranger to storm coverage and hurricane coverage at that. But as a UTampa grad, I am so happy to be back here in the Tampa Bay area, keeping everyone informed.
Well, we know our viewers are the best, and they treat our people on air like family. They will welcome you with open arms, certainly. And yeah, heck of a way to break you in here. Baptism by hurricane, but hopefully it's a smooth one, and we can meet in person soon on a calmer day. Thanks, Jennifer. Jennifer Veglas,
certainly
newest member of our Fox 13 family here. Speaking of Fort Myers, we did get some more video from Fort Myers Beach tonight showing some flooding from the hurricane there. Yeah, the water's pushed on shore earlier there than before it arrived up in our area here, but you know, this was the area that was just crushed by Hurricane Ian last fall. And now they're dealing with some street flooding there again. Hopefully that has receded. I think earlier we heard that was during a high tide. So hopefully that's not some flooding that's going to remain stagnant there for a while.
It just stings to see that video because you
Yeah.
know all that they've been through, and so many businesses have worked so hard to pull it back together and try to reopen homes as well. So that's the last thing they need to deal with right now.
Yeah, thinking of them and all those out there in the storm's path. Paul's back.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's ready for more. We got more viewer questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I won't. You go first.
I just want to show you, we have the tornado watch up. And I just wanted to show you just a quick look at some of these rain bands that are bumping up on shore. Pop up our output on Weather One, and you'll be able to see that we have the watch up, and then on radar right now, look at some of these bands. And Jim and I were looking, so the hurricane is obviously just better defined with a clear eye. And those thunderstorms now that are heavy and bumping on shore in Manatee, Sarasota, Pinellas County, they're strong, and they have a lot of them are kind of individual, and we can go to velocity mode. And Jim is going to take a little second. Jim, highlight some of the ones we were looking at earlier. Maybe they've gone away, but we're seeing already signs. The bottom line is that's the velocity mode, and we're seeing signs already of rotation in some of these thunderstorms. It's kind of tough to just point. There's one right there. Yeah, that little, we call that couplet. That is a rotating thunderstorm that probably producing a water spout. So we do expect in the next couple of hours to be breaking in, doing tornado warning coverage. Just get set for that.
That is remarkable how specific you can get with the radar imagery there in spotting those kind of signatures, right?
And that is something you expect throughout the night. This is our entire coverage area, right? This
And
could
the
go
whole
up and
viewing
down.
area has got, obviously it's where the bands are coming in now. And look at the hurricane. It's still south of our latitude. And all that is going to just kind of bump on shore tonight. And in those squalls, get kind of rough. And I want to point out something important, is that right now we're kind of at low tide. So we're not expecting the reporters to be out or anyone to be out talking about any great height of the water. But we're going to eventually transition into kind of a medium tide, and then we'll go high tide after midnight. So as the night rolls around, we get towards midnight, 1, 2 a.m., and the storm goes north of us, that's when we'll start talking about some high water.
And it's an interesting, it relates to a question that I got from Deanna, because she asked what time exactly the eye would pass Tampa so that she could relax and not worry. I think in many people's minds, when you see it's passed, okay, it's gotten through, but there's still much more that comes behind that.
And there's a rule, and she actually makes a great point. The rule in meteorology is once a storm is past your latitude, you're safe. It doesn't mean you still can't get impacts, but you know it's not going to turn and hit you because it's already gone by you. It's not going to do a U-turn and hit you. So once it's gone by your latitude, you're safe because storms don't turn around and go the other way. So she makes a great point. It doesn't mean the weather stops. It just means you're safe.
Right. And she specifically said, about what time would the eye go past Tampa?
It's going to be a couple of hours. It'll probably be around midnight, 1 a.m.
Okay.
It'll be passing us.
And we wait for that to happen too, especially looking at what was high tide in the Tampa Bay area around 3.
Between 1 and 3 a.m. So we're kind of leaving low tide now. The next high tide is not as high as the one coming up tomorrow afternoon, but all the tides are high because of the near full moon.
Okay, I got a question here and I think we need to keep in mind that we've covered it. How many people have moved to Florida in the past year? This might be their first taste of a hurricane.
Sure.
And so I've got a question from Bridget Roth here, who moved recently to Riverview along the Alafaya River and is wondering, what she should she worry about storm surge there?
Oh, the water can go. We talked about this last hour, didn't we? Half about waters go up the rivers too, and you will see on the evacuation maps, you can be in different zones. I mean, it doesn't extend too far inland, right? But close to the Gulf, the water is pushed in, and it kind of forces the river to kind of go the other way, backs it up, and you can certainly get some high water. We also are concerned living on rivers, and we saw this during Ian and many hurricanes, is so much freshwater flooding where it rains 15, 20 inches, and all of a sudden you're evacuating because of freshwater flooding. That happens a lot up in Pasco County on the Anclote with freshwater flooding. So it's two things. It's if you live near the Gulf, some of the high water can come in on a surge, but also freshwater flooding from too much rain.
We're not expecting that with Tampa Bay, though, area. We're not expecting river flooding because of storm surge in this case, when we see 4 to 7 feet, correct? No. Okay. And hopefully that remains the same there. Yeah, well, we appreciate all of the. Michelle Woods has a good one here. I was asking this earlier today. Why does it seem like hurricanes always hit in the middle of the night? Well, they don't cooperate with our
can't
time.
have a good night of sleep.
We've done research, and actually Ian hit during the day.
Yeah, did it? Maybe it just
landfall.
It always seems like night when a hurricane hits.
There's been studies, and you start getting into the fall, and actually the nights get longer than the day. So, but there's no correlation of why the storm should be on the coast or impacting the coast when it's dark out. There's just doesn't make any sense, really. The storm doesn't know the time of day. It just kind of does its thing.
Yeah. It's pretty relative to where you are.
But it does seem as though a lot of times, it does seem as though I'm standing here, I'm on this table, on this desk, and we're doing it during our Irma, and it's like 9, 10 o'clock.
Right.
But we were on during the day with Ian making landfall.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like it never ends. Get a quick one in here. This one, we talked to you a few hours ago, but we've had some new viewers tune in, and they're curious about the storm surge forecast. When we see 4 to 7 feet or 7 to 11, does that include high tide, or is that on top of high tide?
On top of high tide. It's the normal tide plus the water above it.
So if tide is 3 feet above the mean or medium, I may not be using the right term, but if tide is 3 feet higher, then if I'm getting 7 feet of storm surge, I'm talking about 10 extra feet.
You're exactly
of water.
right.
Okay.
When you have normally high astronomical tides like we do now, and then you add the surge on top of that, you're just going to have a higher tide, just because of the fact the tides are higher than normal.
Okay.
Or I should say predicted.
That's not good. I kind of was hoping it would be included in.
Yeah, and you look at what time is it now? It's like 9:21. So you look at all the times. You've got these are all high tide times. So the next high tide coming up in St. Pete is 1:54, 2:12 Ballast Point, 12:16. I mean, I should say 3:02 a.m. and then 3:31 a.m. So the top one is tonight's. So now we're at 9:20. So we're definitely at a low point as far as the tide goes. The tides will come in now between now and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right, so we've got a ways to go.
Got a ways to go, and that's when the water will start getting higher.
Well, all right. Thank you for your answers, as always. Right on
Always
point.
good stuff. Viewers are on it.
Yeah, they are. They are. We appreciate our viewers, and we hope that we've put some of their concerns at ease as we go through the night. We'll keep doing that. Okay, a live look here over the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. Now, we know it's dark, but you can see the lights on the bridge there, and you can see the wind. Yeah, the camera's bobbing a little there. What was the last wind gust you saw around St. Petersburg, Paul or Jim?
What's the question?
Last wind gust you saw around.
We can pop that up in a second. They're probably gusting.
43. I think I saw 43. Okay.
We had a gust of 43.
Okay, so we know if they get to 40 miles an hour, is that sustained, they'll close the bridge.
And those are in those squalls that are coming onshore. So inside those squalls now we'll get tropical storm force winds.
Okay. All right. So we're looking. The bridge isn't closed now, but wisely, a lot of people aren't out on the roads.
Not a place you want to be right now.
Well, of course, all eyes are on this hurricane as it inches closer to the coast and landfall looking like early morning up in the Big Bend. But we really cannot stress enough the importance of just making sure you're in a safe location if you do live along the water where there's high storm surge expected and you've chosen not to evacuate. Have a safe place to be.
Yeah, Florida officials have been busy making sure communities are prepared, ready to go before, during, and after the storm. And earlier this afternoon, Governor Ron DeSantis spoke about the efforts to keep Floridians safe and informed during the storm. Take a listen.
We have all 8 urban search and rescue teams with almost 600 personnel ready to deploy to help with search and rescue efforts. Hopefully that's not necessary. Hopefully everyone heeded the warnings, and hopefully nobody ends up in harm's way when the storm hits. But we know that that's likely to be a necessity to have some rescues. So these folks are ready to go. They're located up and down the state, and they are going to go where they are needed, and we really appreciate having them. We also have additional search and rescue personnel that are going to be augmenting the USAR teams. We've been working with counties to make sure they have the resources they need to deploy. We've received 400 active missions that we are coordinating. We've either fulfilled or will have those fulfilled today and be ready to go when the storm hits tomorrow. We have 1.1 million gallons of fuel that's staged and ready to deploy. We don't know what the fuel situation is going to be like. Sometimes it could be bad, sometimes not as much. This will be able to fill gaps if those gaps exist. There are over 50 shelters throughout the state that are open, and every county that has any type of evacuation notice does then open at least one shelter for people to go to. Our Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicle has 5 Florida licensing on wheel mobiles and 6 mini mobiles ready to deploy to impacted areas to help residents replace important documents such as driver's license. Hopefully that's not going to be necessary, but if you end up in that situation, we want to have folks that are going to be able to help you out with that. We've deployed almost 250 Starlink internet devices. We have another 500 plus staged and ready to go, and we'll likely be putting those into place soon after the storm passes by. Many school districts have announced school closures for today and for tomorrow, so please just check with your county. But if you're in the path of this storm, it's pretty good bet that the schools are not going to be open tomorrow. We also have 18 state colleges and 6 universities that are not having school tomorrow as well. As the winds become stronger today and into the night, Florida Department of Transportation will be coordinating with FHP and local law enforcement to close bridges once wind speeds reach 40 miles an hour or more. So just keep in mind with that, with any plans that you have, once the wind gets to a certain point, those bridges are not going to be safe to traverse, and Florida Highway Patrol will work with local officials to make sure that people are kept safe. We have been in contact with many states that have offered their assistance, and we're grateful for their efforts. We've already have National Guardsmen from both Tennessee and South Carolina. I want to thank them for stepping up and helping us out. We also have called up 33 ambulance strike teams with over 200 ambulances that are ready to surge in any of the impacted areas. So this is crunch time right now. We're going to get hit with a major hurricane. It'll be sometime, the eye will arrive on shore sometime tomorrow morning, most likely. And it is going to have major impacts, particularly along Florida's Big Bend region. So listen to your local officials. Take the appropriate precautions to protect you and your family. And once the storm passes, we will have help that will be on the way in the form of power restoration. We were able to go to Wildwood in Central Florida to meet with all the Duke Energy personnel that have been pre-staged there to help with Duke Energy and their power restoration efforts. We've got close to 30,000 people that are in the state of Florida staged for power restoration efforts. So that's going to be a priority to be able to get the power back on for folks. Obviously, search and rescue to the extent that's needed. Those guys are going to be ready to go. And Kevin and his team have a lot of staging of food, water, the things that people need when normal services are interrupted. So everybody hang in there. This is going to be something that will leave significant impacts, and particularly in this part of the state.
We were just listening in to Governor Ron DeSantis giving an update on Hurricane Idalia, but also teams on standby ready to respond once the storm has moved out of the area. Everything from fuel, search and rescue teams, even mobile units to help people who end up losing important documents, because it can be very hard to start picking up the pieces if you don't have the documents needed, insurance, whatnot. So they are ready to roll as soon as it is safe to hit the road and help people the best they can.
Yeah, and utility crews too. We heard that in an earlier update. They're all standing by, staging in areas where they can get into what's probably going to have the most damage in terms of the power grid to get that restored as quickly as possible. Well, in Pasco County, there's also a mandatory evacuation order for people who live in Zone A. That's your first evacuation zone nearest the coast, and also for anyone living in a mobile home. And all day, officials there have really been pushing people who need to get out, telling them to get out. That's because there are a lot of low-lying, flood-prone areas in Pasco County. We've seen some terrible flooding before along the river up there in Trinity and in Elfers. This is video here from 2017 after Irma came through. And we saw earlier some of the people in the Emergency Operations Center there. But again, they want to stress to people that are even not near the coast that if you're near a river, like this mobile home park here back in 2017, extreme flooding has occurred there in the past, and this is why they put those evacuation orders in effect.
We're still expected to get 6 to 9 foot of surge. We'll be getting the strong tropical storm force winds, some hurricane winds. So we still got to take this storm very seriously.
And a lot of people were taking it seriously. They showed up at a lot of the county's sandbag sites and got that sand and went to secure their properties and their homes in Pasco County. We're told that the county gave out around almost 350,000 sandbags. Just in Pasco County, that's a lot. And again, if you need any specific information on shelters or road closures in Pasco, you can find those on the county's website. For that information, it's called mypasco.net. And we do have a link to it on our website, fox13news.com. Quick reminder, if you do lose power tonight, and we hope you don't, but you want to get updates all through the night, our newscast is being simulcast over several local radio stations. That includes these three: Hot 101.5, 102.5 The Bone, and 97X. And stay with us for more county-by-county coverage. Up next, we've got updates from Citrus and Hernando counties, along with another in-depth forecast from Paul Delgado and Jim Weber, too. We'll be right back.
Being local attorneys in the Tampa Bay area gives Catania and Catania many advantages. We know the culture. We know the people. At Catania and Catania, we're not an assembly line, and you're not just another injury case. Local personal injury attorneys that get results. Catania and Catania, celebrating 30 years of serving the Tampa Bay area.
You've got to see it.
You've got to go.
Florida's largest home show, home design, and remodeling edition.
Don't flip your house. Turn it into your dream home.
Remodel, decorate, and landscape.
Labor Day weekend, Friday, September 1st through Monday, September 4th at the Florida State Fairgrounds.
Love cooking outside? See the all-new outdoor kitchens from Paradise Grilling Systems, America's largest tiki huts, TV stereo, plus no permits required. Special show prices only at
Florida's largest home show, home design and remodeling edition. Labor Day weekend at the Florida State Fairgrounds.
During our Labor Day savings event, Famous Tate makes it easy to update the latest appliances that save you time and money. Sale prices plus exclusive bonus rebates means the more you buy, the more you save. See the new GE Profile Ultra Fast Combo Washer on sale now. Plus, no sales tax on select refrigerators, washers, dryers, and gas ranges. Free delivery and no interest financing available. At Famous Tate, of course.
WeatherTight Windows only installs PGT custom windows and doors, so all of our windows are energy efficient and hurricane strong. Did I forget anything? Geniuses.
Helping first-time diamond buyers find their perfect diamond is one of the most exciting times to be in the jewelry business. From educating you about the 4 C's and all of the different shapes and styles, we are able to show you a huge selection of inventory to choose from.
We are auditioning to be your family jeweler. It's something we take pride in and love to help make that first-time diamond buyer walk away with the perfect natural diamond.
Make sure it's a Golden Diamond Source diamond.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage. We continue to track Hurricane Idalia as the storm makes its way northward.
Yeah, Jim, still a long way to go. Are we seeing the winds pick up more in some spots?
Yeah, you know, as these bands are starting to work their way onshore down to our south, we are starting to see some of these winds at least gusting up to tropical storm force, and we're quite likely going to see some sustained tropical storm force winds. Here's that enhanced satellite loop where you're looking at the colors, which those darker colors are showing you the colder cloud tops. And you see on that northern side, you're boom, right there. You see that big flare up of convection. So this storm is just continuing to organize itself even more and continuing to strengthen. You're seeing another band starting to develop here. You can clearly see that warm eye right in the center. And we're watching more of these bands starting to work their way onshore. Now, we were talking about this earlier over the past several days on what would be steering this system. And we've got this trough, which is developing back to the west of this system. As that continues to dig down into the Gulf of Mexico, that is what is pulling this system up to the north. So we're seeing everything coming into play. Computer models have really done a very good job with this system. So it's working its way off the coastline right now. You can clearly see the eye. You're seeing just a really well-defined hurricane, and now you're starting to see some of those bands work their way onshore. By the way, this red shade here, that is a tornado watch, which is basically for our entire viewing area. That goes until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Makes sense. Anytime you have these tropical systems and you have those bands, you always have that possibility of those quick spin-up tornadoes. And we've been watching this band out in the Gulf of Mexico, and as it was sitting probably about 20 miles off the coastline, me and Paul, we were analyzing this very closely, and we were seeing what could be some water spouts in this. Now, as it's been working its way towards the coast, we've seen those rotations go away, but it's still possible that we could see more of these, especially when you start to see some of these cells like this, where you get these discrete cells inside of there, you can start to see some of these rotating. So that's what we have to watch as we look down to our south from St. Petersburg down into Bradenton, Sarasota, all the way down the coastline. Going to be watching that line very closely because that's probably our most severe weather that we're looking at right now, which is working its way down into Sarasota County. Inside of this, that's where you're going to see those winds really gusting up into tropical storm force. And in some cases, we'll start to see at least some of this sustained at tropical storm force, especially as you work your way up towards Pinellas County. We're already seeing those winds gusting to tropical storm force. Just to the north of there, you head up into Pasco, Hernando, and then to Citrus County. It's quiet right now, but as that center continues to work its way to the north, it's going to start to pull more of these bands up in your direction. We still could see some of that working its way in further inland, so it's quiet now over to Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands County. Everything is quiet for you right now. You look at the wind speeds. There you see St. Petersburg gusting to 41, down in Sarasota, seeing those winds gusting currently to 30 miles an hour. But that band, it is still working its way on shore. Now, as far as power outages, we've seen this kind of bouncing back and forth, but still things are looking pretty good. We are seeing a few more areas seeing some power outages, especially down into southern Pinellas County, seeing a few areas near downtown that are seeing some sporadic power outages. But as this band starts to work its way over, we watch down into Manatee and Sarasota and also into Pinellas County, we will quite likely start to see at least some more power outages, and that will also increase as we go through the overnight hours. And actually, where we've seen the biggest issues have actually been over towards Orlando. They had a big band of rain that worked its way through there right around dinner time, and that knocked out a lot of power over in that area. So here's the latest on Idalia. Winds right now are at 105 miles an hour. It's moving to the north at 16 miles an hour. Track will be updated at 11 o'clock tonight, but really not seeing anything that's going to come along and really change this track all that much. I mean, you're obviously going to see those little tweaks here and there, but you're not going to see, I don't predict to see any major changes with this as we go through tonight and into tomorrow as it works its way up into the Big Bend. So really, the thing that we'll be watching here over the next couple of hours is just that rain band working its way on shore and pushing up to the north, and we'll keep you updated on that as we go through the next couple of hours. Haley?
All right, Jim, thanks. Just hours ago, surfers cashed in on the bigger waves from Idalia on Treasure Island. We don't see that too often in the Gulf. They say they were happy to have a little fun before the storm hits, but the clock is ticking and the Pinellas County coastline is susceptible to storm surge and rising water. Fox 13's Kylie Jones is live in Gulfport tonight. And Kylie, what are you noticing out there?
Well, Haley, yeah, those rising waters are definitely something a lot of residents were concerned about when we talked to them earlier today. It was pretty quiet several hours ago. Really just in the last hour, things have picked up here in Gulfport. We've got the water behind us. I don't know if you can kind of see from the light shining. You can see light sheets of rain being blown by the wind. The wind has really picked up quite a bit again in the last hour. The rain not too heavy yet, but it is certainly coming down consistently. So we've got a lot of rain and a lot of wind picking up right now. Again, this has really just picked up in the last hour or so. We've seen a couple cracks of lightning in the last hour. And I want to take you over here. We're at the Gulfport Casino right now. You can see sandbags stacked, tarps covering the doors and the glass on those doors. This is pretty much the scene and the situation that you're seeing at businesses and storefronts all along Beach Boulevard here in downtown Gulfport, and other businesses and homes throughout Gulfport. sandbags are stacked up, ready to go at a lot of different storefronts. We also did take a look out at the water this afternoon. A little bit choppy waves and conditions earlier this afternoon. Things were kind of on and off. A lot of people, though, still out and about this afternoon. We were talking to people today. Again, one of their biggest concerns was just the potential for flooding and that possible storm surge. And there's actually a sign in Gulfport kind of giving you an idea of those levels of storm surge and just how big of a concern it could be. But I also want to take you to one of the big things right now. A mandatory evacuation, again, is in place for parts of Pinellas County. So that includes parts of Gulfport here. Zone A is under a mandatory evacuation, and anybody who lives in a mobile home right now. So there were police officers going, up and down downtown Gulfport today, asking a lot of people who were hanging out here to please get away from this area, get away from the water again, because they want people, especially in Zone A and those mandatory evacuation zones, to leave the area and watch out for, the potential for flooding and storm surge and everything. Again, we've got the rain coming down, the wind picking up right now. So we will continue to keep you guys updated. But for now, Haley and Chris, I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, let's hope that people do listen to that mandatory evacuation. We know Gulfport is susceptible to flooding, and those water levels are expected to rise in the coming hours. So we're certainly not out of the woods by any means. All right, Kylie, thank you. And we continue our county-by-county coverage tonight with a look at how they're getting ready in Hernando County. They could be facing some significant flooding there.
And of course, the further north we move up from the Tampa Bay area, the higher their projected storm surge is going to be, because they're closer to landfall or expected landfall for this hurricane. Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer is live in Spring Hill. Aaron, they've certainly had their past issues with flooding. What's it like there now?
Well, so far, it hasn't really been as bad as I think as many as have feared, but they're hoping it stays that way. And, of course, we know in all likelihood it's going to get worse as the evening and then overnight hours continue. We've moved from where we were earlier this evening to US 19 because every area west of US 19 is in a mandatory evacuation zone. And although things are still calm out there, we wanted to get a little bit more inland because there's a mandatory evacuation beginning really at 7 p.m. That's when emergency officials wanted everybody out of there by. And by the looks of it, people are taking it seriously. This hotel, for example, is completely booked up for the night. But there are some people who we spoke with earlier today who are staying home. Emergency officials are hoping that more people are taking them seriously and evacuating, but they are keeping a close eye on the next two high tide cycles at 3:12 a.m. and then at 1:35 tomorrow afternoon. The sheriff's office is concerned that winds are expected to keep pushing the water inland, causing devastation to communities like Pine Island, Hernando Beach, and Arapica. Those are the areas of biggest concern. Earlier this evening, the National Guard arrived in 6 high water rescue vehicles. They were briefed by Hernando County Fire Rescue Chief Marcus Zoff. Here's what he told us afterward regarding the residents along the coast who plan to try to ride out the storm.
They're taking their life and their family's life in their own hands because we won't be able to get to them until the water recedes. So we're begging people, please, for your family's sake, get out and be safe. We can rebuild a house. We can't replace lives.
Yeah, you heard what he said there. There is still time to evacuate, especially if you live west of US 19. Chief Zoff says National Guard's high water rescue vehicles will help them respond to calls in some of those major flooded areas. Also, 79 additional National Guard members are on their way here. Now, following that briefing that we just showed you a second ago, those National Guard members went out into some of those communities to take a look at the area, kind of get a lay of the land, figure out where they can go, where they can't go. And Chris and Haley, their whole point is let's figure this out beforehand, but and just be ready for the worst, but hope most of these people who are still there evacuate and then come back afterward after all that water has receded.
Yeah, that's the key, to be able to come back, to have the health to come back and start picking up if picking up is necessary. Okay, thank you. Aaron Mesmer live for us there in Hernando County. Now, one county further north from where Aaron is Citrus County, of course. That's the county in our viewing area that will be closest to where Idalia appears to be ready to make landfall in the early morning hours. So let's go live there now. This is where they're expecting some pretty tremendous storm surge. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank live at Homosassa. Evan, we know that, the rain hasn't reached you yet because we're actually just now starting to see it fall in Pinellas County. So as it begins to make its way up the coast there. But as you go around and you talk to people in Citrus County that have been through hurricanes before, I'm not sure that we've seen one with this projected storm surge total in quite some time. Is that the sense you're getting here, that this hits a little differently for people there?
Well, look, without a doubt, people have heard all the warnings, Chris. But, we have a situation now where the county has ordered people to leave flood zone A. Most people, as far as we can tell, this is not scientific. Based on the roads we've driven down, we have seen people who appear to still be in their houses. Now, behind me now, we're at a parking lot here along US 19. And behind me, you can see there are people in their RVs here who have elected to spend the night in this parking lot, which is at a shopping plaza. And people have said to me that this parking lot does not often flood. We're right here at Route 19. That's kind of a magic, sort of dividing line of where flooding stops and starts here in Homosassa. For the most part, Homosassa does flood frequently, particularly by the boat ramps here. When there is a bad storm in Tampa Bay, whether it is a hurricane, a tropical storm, or something less than that, this area will flood, and we have been here covering seemingly routine rainstorms that have turned into much worse. As you can see right now, things are very clear. Things are very calm here. We don't have any sign that a hurricane is on its way. Maybe there's a little bit of a breeze picking up. We had one small little baby band of rain that came through, lasted maybe 5 minutes. So that's what we've seen here in Homosassa so far. Let's show you what the boat ramp looked like just a little while ago. We were down there just to see if anything had changed since we last saw them at 5 and 6 o'clock when we were live there. And indeed, nothing had. The floodwaters, the expected storm surge had not crept up yet. Things looked very calm there. And without a doubt, people, are generally at this point just waiting to see what happens. People want to see whether the predictions that they're going to have very bad storm surge, what those predictions are going to turn out to be, Chris. Thankfully, at this point, we have not seen any impacts from this particular storm. We certainly expect that to change. People here expect that to change. The question is just how much. I think a lot of people here were expecting the storm to be closer to the shore than it is, given that it's and I'm not a meteorologist, but given it's about 100 miles offshore, people have been, a bit surprised that they have not had impacts yet. Of course, we expect that to change, and certainly Paul can shed some light on when that'll be. We understand it'll be after midnight. So right now, people are just kind of bunking up here in this parking lot. Many people are staying in their homes. Some have left as they wait to see what impact Homosassa is going to have and the rest of Citrus County is going to have, Chris.
Yeah, and sometimes the anticipation of these things is kind of almost the worst part of it, or you hope it is. You hope it doesn't get worse than what you expect.
We're wondering too. We're wondering too. We want to know what these folks are going to experience. We came here, to give people the best information possible, and we're glad to say that right now things are calm. So we'll see what happens over the next couple hours.
Wait, hang on right there. Paul's right here. He's just off screen. I know you can't see him, Evan, but he's in the same room. I'm just going to ask him real quick. Paul, Evan, when will Evan start seeing some rain or any?
Well, you can hold on a second. Let me just answer that question by doing this.
He's getting there. He was trying to do something else, Evan, before I interrupted him.
And then you can
tell him I said hi, by the way.
Oh, Evan says hi.
He'll be texting me again. He texts me every 5 minutes.
You've been texting him every 5 minutes.
It wasn't every 5 minutes.
When are we getting rain?
It was not every 5 minutes.
Hey, how you doing, pal? What's going on? What's the Mets score right now?
We just lost 2-1, by the way.
Oh, look at him. He's multitasking.
Yeah. My dad's rage texting me from the game.
Oh, boy.
If you take the output, you'll be able to see what the situation is up there. The storm hasn't gotten there yet. I mean, the real main situation is that this heavy rain bands now, you can see it south of Evan and south of Homosassa Springs, right through Tampa Bay. So as the storm kind of heads north, they will get into that zone of the storm where winds will pick up 40, 50 miles an hour. And then once the storm kind of heads up towards the Big Bend, the winds up in Homosassa and Hernando Beach and anywhere along the coast will start coming in from the west and southwest, and that's when the water is going to start piling up. So it's a process. And basically, the quick answer is the storm has not really reached you yet. And I just had some messages from viewers that are watching me in Anna Maria and down in Holmes Beach. It's pretty rough out there right now. The winds are whipping 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Rain is really coming down, a couple of flashes of lightning. So Tampa Bay South, it's pretty nasty right now.
Yeah, some pretty serious bands.
So
there,
I've always wondered, Chris and Paul, is given it's going to be parallel to us or somewhat parallel, does the storm, are the conditions the worst when the eye is directly across, or do we wait for the eye to go past a little bit so that the bands then come and sweep in?
It's usually the right front quadrant. So if you look around Tampa Bay now, I guess I would call that the right front quadrant. It's to the right and it's up to the corner. That's a quadrant. And then as the storm goes by and everything kind of rotates, if the storm is close enough to us, as it will be in this case, the backside comes in and then you get into like kind of the tail of the storm. So that's why I really think once the storm passes by us, it's not over. And then it kind of curves as it makes landfall. It heads northeast. And again, all the models kind of show us kind of in one of the tails or the bands of the storm. So I guess it'll be unsettled for a while. And again, I think the headline is folks that are watching us now in Bradenton and Sarasota and all the way down to Venice and Northport, messages on the inbox going, hey, Paul, it's getting pretty nasty out here. 30, 40, 50 mile an hour winds, tropical storm force, occasional lightning, and probably in the next hour or two, we'll start doing tornado warnings on the air because these thunderstorms are spinning as they move onshore.
That's a great point. All right, Evan Axelbank, live for us.
Thanks, Paul. Tell Haley I said hi, too.
We'll get she says hi. We'll get your message to her. Evan Axelbank, and hopefully things remain calm there in Homosassa. We'll check in with him later. As Paul mentioned there, though, it is picking up for a lot of people there. There's some heavy rain falling now to our south. We're going to keep it right here. We want you to keep it right here as we continue our coverage. Going to try to get some more of your questions answered after the break. We'll be right back.
Just announced, rates as low as 2.9% on F-150s. That's what you'll find this Labor Day at Brandon Ford. More F-150s than most any other Ford dealer in America. All at Brandon Ford's famous Labor Day pricing. Like new loaded F-150 XLT crew cabs with the 302A package, Sport or Chrome, just $45,995. Our Labor Day pricing is incredible. So through Monday, September 4th, get to Brandon Ford's Labor Day sale for the best selection, lowest prices, and biggest trade-in values. Just announced, rates as low as 2.9% on F-150s. That's what you'll find this Labor Day at Brandon Ford. More F-150s than most any other Ford dealer in America. All at Brandon Ford's famous Labor Day pricing. Like new loaded F-150 XLT crew cabs with the 302A package, Sport or Chrome, just $45,995. Our Labor Day pricing is incredible. So through Monday, September 4th, get to Brandon Ford's Labor Day sale for the best selection, lowest prices, and biggest trade-in values.
Hi, I'm attorney Rebecca Witt from Rubenstein Law, and this is Rubenstein's Rules for Personal Injury. Rule number 11, truck accidents require special attention. Sometimes drivers are put in a difficult position and accidents happen. Driving without sleep can be as dangerous as drunk driving. Evidence needs to be preserved for inspection without delay. Some trucking companies hide insurance, but we know how to find it.
For all these rules and more, go to RubensteinLaw.com.
Hey, it's Dr. Mike. New research shows that if you work remotely and you don't get up and move around, you're going to be in big trouble. You're going to gain weight. You're going to be depressed and anxious. Your vision is going to be problematic. Look, folks, you need to get up and move around at least every 20 minutes. Make sure you invest in that Health 401k. I'm Dr. Mike Sirigliano with the Fox Medical Team.
All right, let's take a look at the latest satellite view, infrared, and just looking at some of the recon data that came in. The 11 o'clock advisory, this is going to be close, but it's just about, if not Cat 3 status. And I think what's really incredible is the last frame, that one right there. In fact, I'm going to go back and just kind of stop the loop, because now we're in rapid intensification. When the eye clears out and it looks like there's no shear around and water temps are pretty warm. Let me see if I can just stop this for a second. There you go. That last frame really shows the eye beginning to clear out. So this is an intensifying hurricane. Pretty soon is going to move by our latitude, and then as it starts turning northeast, some of the heavier bands now are onshore, and we've had wind gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour along the coast. So this will start turning up here, and then we'll kind of get into the backside where there'll also be rounds of rain coming in. So if inland, there'll be occasional rain, but we've been highlighting the fact for you, I think your biggest threat is squalls going by that could produce an isolated tornado. Any squall could cause a power outage in your town or location, but as far as getting hurricane force winds, impossible inland and even along the coast. I think mainly it's tropical storm force winds that could gust to near hurricane force right along any place that's open to the Gulf. And we're talking someone on Anna Maria or Lido or Longboat or any of the barrier islands where there's nothing to stop the wind. It's all open. That's where the wind really howls. And that's where you could get winds 50, 60, 70, 75 miles an hour. But this right here, this core, this is where the bad weather is. It's just going to bypass us. And then it will move onshore up in the Big Bend. So they will get this up in the Big Bend early tomorrow morning, unfortunately for them. But you talk about an incredible improvement in a satellite presentation for a storm. I mean, last night I was showing arrows with wind shear and everything being pushed to the southeast and, kind of a disorganized tropical storm. And now you've got a well-defined, in fact, I think it's a major hurricane, just based on recon, and we'll see what they do with it at 10 o'clock, but it's awfully close. It's almost at our latitude, which is 28.3 degrees north. It's almost there, and then when it goes by us, we're going to get into some of this that extends down here, and that's when the winds start turning southwest. Remember, we're pretty much still in the midst of a low tide. And as we get near midnight and beyond, we get towards a high tide, and that's when the water levels will start going up. Gust 41 now in St. Pete, tropical storm gust 31 Sarasota, gust 29 at the airport in Tampa. Still light winds up in the Big Bend, but the weather will deteriorate later on tonight. Here's the update, 8 o'clock, top winds 105. Again, recon is stronger. And stay tuned for the 11 o'clock update. The track, again, is up towards the Big Bend. No change. All in all, the storm is kind of behaving as predicted. We'll have another update coming up in a bit. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. A little sports update for you here. Before the impact of the storm made its way into the Bay Area, the Tampa Bay Rowdies got in some practice today. The team does plan to cancel tomorrow's practice as they're getting ready for Saturday's big home game against Hartford Athletic. With players and coaches now having been through multiple hurricanes, adapting is really nothing new for the Rowdies.
For me, growing up in Hurricane Alley or whatever it's called, and it's obviously terrifying what could happen, but I've been kind of fortunate not had to have too many serious instances with hurricanes, so hopefully it's not too bad for us here in Tampa.
Obviously, I think the biggest and main thing this week is the safety of not just obviously our guys here at the Rowdies, but all the people in Florida kind of being safe, their family members and everything being safe.
Rowdies are hot. They've won 3 straight heading into this weekend's matchup, and Saturday's game really should not be impacted by the storm.
You can count on Fox 13 to keep you updated on developments as Idalia makes its way closer to Florida. In case you lose power, you can watch our live stream on your cell phone or tablet. You can do so at fox13news.com/live. But if you need those devices for a lifeline and are trying to conserve their batteries, there's also the radio. We're partners with 3 radio stations for wall-to-wall hurricane coverage. Once we stay on air, you can listen on 101.5 FM, 97X, and get occasional updates on 102.5. And remember, we have lots of resources to help you all throughout the storm on our website. Just go to fox13news.com. You're watching continuing coverage of Hurricane Idalia here on Fox 13.
We'll be right back with more. Stay with us.